बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि वकफ़ा वस्सलामुन अला इबादिहिल्लज़ीना इस्तफ़ा अम्मा बाद फ़अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश्शैतानिर्रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व अला आलि सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व बारिक वसल्लम अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व अला आलि सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व बारिक वसल्लम अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व अला आलि सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद व बारिक वसल्लम रब्बी यस्सिर व ला तुअस्सिर व तम्मिम बिल खैर व बिका नस्तईन या फत्ताह या अलीम रब्बी ज़िदनी इल्मा रब्बी इश्रह ली सदरी वयस्सिर ली अमरी वहलुल उक़दतम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली। इंशाल्लाह इन दिस मंथ ऑफ रमज़ान हम लोग जो है विल ट्राई एंड कवर द सीरत ऑफ नबी अलैहिस्सलाम इन 30 days और हम इस तरीके से कवर करेंगे दैट वी हैव डिवाइडेड द सीरत इनटू some of the major events across Nabi al-Islam's Makkah Mukarramah and Medina life, and inshallah we will be covering this every single night. ठीक है. um, and the idea, one of the things we will be focusing on is कि हमें इससे lessons क्या मिलते हैं in the 21st century, right? So the first topic that is for today is the chosen time and place for the chosen one. That's the topic for day number 1 today. And inshallah in the next 30 to 40 minutes I will be trying to cover that. And इसके अंदर हम क्या क्या कवर करेंगे. नंबर 1 हम ये कवर करेंगे कि why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose Nabi al-Islam for this specific time, that is the 6th century, as he was born in 570 as per the Christian calendar. ठीक है. Why did he choose Nabi al-Islam for Arab, right? And Makkah Mukarramah specifically. उनकी ज़बान अरबी ज़बान क्यों थी. वो जो है कुरैश से ताल्लुक़ क्यों रखते थे, and specifically why from Banu Hashim, and also that the demographics of the area and of the time, right? So we are going to take into consideration all of these things. So सबसे पहले हम ये start करते हैं कि why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose the 6th century, right? So Nabi al-Islam was born in 570, right, Christian calendar, and which is the 6th century. तो Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ने क्यों 30th century choose करी? So what the ulama have written is that this was the time जब तमाम all the prophets had come and gone, and उनकी सारी teachings had been, let's say, forgotten or gone in the past. ठीक है. None of it remained. It was very very minority of people जो के क्या कहते हैं दीन इब्राहिमी practice करते थे, right? And that was in a very small number, and they were secluded, and they went more towards being monks, which we call rahbaniyat, right? Rahbaniyat is that they isolated themselves from the world, और वो अपनी जो है इबादत करते थे और अल्लाह ताला को ढूंढते थे. ठीक है. Except for them, जो vast majority लोग थे वो गुमराह हो चुके थे, right, by this time period, और all of the remnants of the previous books had been lost, or the whole world had come into a complete disarray, if you want to see, from a spiritual perspective. ठीक है. So all of the teachings of the previous prophets were lost, और जो है कोई ऐसा religion नहीं बाकी रहा था which people were following and getting to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and staying away from shirk. शिर्क आम हो चुका था, right? बुत परस्ती, idol worshipping आम हो चुकी थी, and जुल्म आम हो चुका था, right? In terms of society as a value, society की जो थी वो हालत बहुत ख़राब हो चुकी थी, and we will do this inshallah in the सीरत as well in the coming days, कि लोगों के हुकूक जो है that was a big question mark. The rich were becoming richer, the poor were becoming poorer. लोगों के rights जो है that was a big question mark. As you know, women's rights, औरतों को, बच्चियों को जो है जिंदा दफनानी had already become a norm, right? It was something that was happening for a long time already. और क्या कहते हैं कि जो नेक लोग थे, as I said, they had confined themselves away from the general public because it was a time when they had to choose and they fled the battleground to save themselves in their own iman. Okay? So, in short, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose this time was because it was a complete spiritual tragedy, um, and people were not getting इंसाफ और लोगों के लिए बहुत मुश्किल ज़माना आ गया था ठीक है that's why this time was chosen now also if you if you know some of geography 6th century is long before America was discovered Australia was discovered ठीक है so that happened in the 15th and the 16th century so क्या हो रहा था कि the world was pretty much Europe um, Arabian Peninsula अफ्रीका ठीक है एंड एशिया दिस वाज द वर्ल्ड ठीक है लोगों को लगता था कि यही दुनिया है एंड दुनिया का एपी सेंटर राइट जियोग्राफिकली was also in a way was the Arab Peninsula at that time ठीक है एंड एक तरीके से ज्योग्राफिकली सेंटर बन गया था मक्का मुकरमा Now I will tell you कि why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the Arabian Peninsula for Nabi Islam and why not Rome or Persia. Those were the two superpowers, right? The Roman Empire and the Persian Empire was big at that time. Why not Europe? Why not Asia? Why not Africa? ठीक है So the first thing is कि हज़रत इब्राहीम अलैहि सलाम ने की दुआ थी ठीक है If you remember the story of इब्राहीम अलैहि सलाम तो अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला ने उनको भेजा था and he then told Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam to leave his family ठीक है बीबी हाजरा को छोड़ दिया था उन्होंने and he left to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then वो जो famous वाक्य बीबी हाजरा का that she had Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam with her और वो जो है पानी की तलाश में दौड़ रही थी और जमजम का चश्मा निकला और सफ़ा मरवा की हम सही करते हैं इसीलिए करते हैं बिकॉज ऑफ बीबी हाजरा ठीक है उनकी सुन्नत है so that was the first let's say, not the first, but that was the foundations of Nabi Islam coming to Makkah Mukarramah क्योंकि हज़रत इब्राहीम अलैहि सलाम ने जब बैतुल्लाह और काबा बनाया था so he made dua right that Ya Allah and it comes in Quran as well right that he made dua that send your blessed prophet to this place and the other dua he made was कि इस जगह को आप हर किस्म के फल और अनाज right जो है वो इससे आप इसको ब्लेस कर दें बिकॉज इट्स बेसिकली अ डेजर्ट राइट जहाँ पे कुछ उगता नहीं था तो उसको अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला ने हज़रत इब्राहीम अलैहि सलाम की दुआ कबूल करनी थी दैट वाज द फर्स्ट रीज़न द सेकंड रीज़न वाज अरेबियन पेनिनसुला की ज़बान जो थी वो अरबी थी और इट्स it was the only language spoken there, more or less. It was a tribal system, right? इतनी सारी tribes थी, लेकिन उनकी ज़बान एक ही थी, अरबी थी. Which is more of a miracle because if you see anywhere else in the world, जहाँ पे बहुत सारी tribes इकट्ठी हो जाती हैं different, वहाँ पे different ज़बानें बोली जाती हैं. And everyone has their own identity, right? लेकिन in the Arabian Peninsula सिर्फ वाहिद एक ज़बान थी, which was Arabic, and that was had to become the language of Quran. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Nabi Islam in the Arabian Peninsula. Right. The other reason why Makkah Mukarramah was chosen was because Makkah Mukarramah had become the hub of trade. And that's why the most powerful of tribes all over the world had to come to Makkah Mukarramah और या वो ट्रेड करते थे मक्का मुकरमा के साथ ठीक है तो मक्का जो था वहाँ पे हज भी होता था ठीक है और वहाँ पे वो एपी सेंटर ऑफ ट्रेड भी बन गया था सो इट वाज बेसिकली यू कैन से वन ऑफ द ट्रेड कैपिटल्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड जैसे आप आज कहेंगे लंदन है या न्यूयॉर्क है राइट इस तरह की वो जगह बन गई थी वेयर एवरीवन कम्स टू ट्रेड आजकल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज मार्केट्स आर एस्टैब्लिश्ड राइट इन द बिगेस्ट कैपिटल्स उस वक्त का जो ट्रेड कैपिटल था वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट वंस वाज मक्का मुकर्रमा Hence, what did it mean? It meant that बहुत सारे लोग उधर आते थे डिफरेंट जगहों से डिफरेंट वेदर से डिफरेंट जोग्राफी से बहुत सारे लोग उधर आते थे जिसकी वजह से इट बिकेम द सेंटर ऑफ दावा एज वेल राइट अगर एक गांव में दावा होता तो उसको फैलते फैलते बहुत टाइम लगता बट इफ यू चूज अ कैपिटल फॉर दावा So that means that you can give dawah to anyone and everyone who comes there, right? So the dawah can spread like wildfire. So ये हिकमत थी मक्का मुकरमा को चूज करने की. Then the other reason why Makkah Mukarramah was chosen was because क्योंकि उधर का weather इतना harsh था, right? The desert climate, the desert demography, and the environment was so harsh that even big superpowers like the Roman Empire and Persian Empire never, wanted to conquer it. Number one, उधर जंग बहुत मुश्किल थी क्योंकि उधर लड़ने के लिए, it was very difficult to travel in the desert for long days and months, and to fight there and then to conquer that place was very difficult because of the weather, because of the harsh conditions. So already जो था वो Arabian Peninsula and Makkah Mukarramah especially was protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala naturally, right? कुदरती तौर पे उसकी हिफाजत अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला ने की थी क्योंकि वो जगहों से दूर था, वो रोमन और पर्शियन एम्पायर से दूर था. It was already protected, right? So it was easy for a prophet there to come and do dawah without having the fear of someone conquering them or their land very quickly. The other reason Arab Peninsula was chosen, and especially Makkah Mukarramah was chosen, was because it was also the hub of Quraysh and their specific lineage of Banu Hashim. They were known to be the best of the best in terms of hasab and nasab. ठीक है? They were supposed to be the highest in terms of families. ठीक है? The most respected, the most well-renowned. They were the most powerful. सबसे ज़्यादा, let's say, educated, if you want to say, in today's world. The highest in terms of status. People used to listen to them. वो सरदार होते थे. ठीक है? They were the ones in power. So that was another reason why Makkah Mukarramah was chosen to be the birthplace of Nabi Islam, as well as where his dawah would start, right? Now, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the people, right? So we spoke about the place, Makkah Mukarramah, and um, the geographic importance. Now, why were the people important, the Ahl Arab? Why were they important, right? So that also was handpicked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first reason was that the Ahl Arab, they really believed in their lineage. They were the only ones जिन्होंने अपनी lineage जो है वो safeguard करी हुई थी, and they knew exactly उनकी lineage कहाँ तक जा रही है, as compared to many other people at that time जिनको पता नहीं था कि उनकी lineage कहाँ की है, वो कहाँ से हैं, उनके वालिदैन कहाँ से हैं, where are their forefathers from, right? And it was all a mix. But the Ahl Arab were very particular in terms of their lineage, and they were very clear. Hence, you can find a lot of family trees from the Arab Peninsula. Okay. The second reason why the Ahl Arab were chosen was because, as I mentioned before, that the Arabic language was a potent language, very very strong. Okay. And the people in the Arab Peninsula, they were experts of Arabic. तो बहुत ज़्यादा पोइट्री होती थी, शायरी होती थी, ठीक है, फसाहत और बलागत जो है वो उनकी क्या कहते हैं रूह के अंदर थी. they were literary people, right? They used to concentrate a lot on literature, or having mature literature is a sign of a very mature language. ठीक है, जहाँ पे भी आप जाएं, ठीक है, अगर वो ज़बान जो है उसमें बहुत लिटरेचर लिखी गई है, उसमें शायरी हो चुकी है, उसमें किताबें लिखी गई हैं, उधर कॉम्पिटिशन्स होते हैं, दैट्स अ साइन कि वो लैंग्वेज बहुत मेच्योर हो गई है. एंड दिस इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट हैपेंड टू द अरबिक लैंग्वेज कि वो बहुत मेच्योर हो चुकी थी. ठीक है, तो दिस इज वन ऑफ द रीजंस व्हाई द अरब पेनिनसुला वाज अगेन selected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other reason why these people were selected was because ये बहुत बहादुर लोग थे पहले अरब. ठीक है, they were not afraid. They used to go all over the world wherever they could reach to trade. ठीक है, ये बहुत जंगजू लोग थे. They fought for their rights. They were very brave. They were not shut down by the Roman or the Persian Empire. ठीक है, and even though they were very brave, On the other hand, they were also very humble. Hence, there were no palaces in the Arab Peninsula. ठीक है बहुत सादी जिंदगी गुजारते थे compared to the Roman and the Persian empires where there used to be big palaces and they used to live in a very different way. ठीक है अरब लोग जो थे वो बहुत सीधे साधे थे, right? And this is something that you see today as well. If you go across the Arab countries, right, उनका आप लिबास देख लें, you know, they wear white, very simple dress. If you look at their women, right, their dressing is very simple. Generally, right, the people who haven't become westernized and modernized, बहुत simple लोग होते हैं. You know, their diet is very simple. खजूर खाते हैं, right? कावा पीते हैं. Very very simple, non-extravagant diet होती है. You know, they eat meat which is, you know, hunted, freshly hunted. Um, so they were people who were very very brave and they stood up for their rights, and at the same time they were very humble, right? um, and they were people who had leaders, right, historically, and they were the ones who were chosen for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam because they had that quality. इनके अंदर और भी क्वालिटीज थी अहले अरब के अंदर, ठीक है, इनकी सखावत वर ऑफ द हाईएस्ट टीचर, राइट, इनकी मेहमान नवाजी. सो इफ एनी ट्रैवलर यूज्ड टू कम फ्रॉम एनीवेयर, उनकी जो मेहमान नवाजी होती थी वो नेक्स्ट लेवल की होती थी. उनको घर में ठहराया जाता था, उनके खाने का बंदोबस्त, रहने सहने का बंदोबस्त. और ऐसा नहीं था दैट दे हैड अ लॉट ऑफ रूम्स और वो बहुत पैलेसेस में रहते थे कि एक कमरा उन्होंने किसी को दे दिया. बहुत सादी लाइफस्टाइल के अंदर, लेकिन दिल बहुत बड़े थे उनके, right? And why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send Nabi Islam here? Because Islam was a religion that was going to change a lot of things, right? Hence, the reason, you know, the first people had to be जिनके दिल खोले हो ताकि वो accept कर सकें वो change और वो फैला सकें. दिल वाले लोग थे, right? अक्ल वाले लोग नहीं थे, दिल वाले लोग थे. They loved from their hearts, they greeted people from their hearts, right? They respected people from their hearts. And that's why, you know, there were people who, you know, even though the rich were becoming richer and the poor were becoming poorer, but in terms of the tribal system, वो एक दूसरे की respect बहुत ज़्यादा करते थे, ठीक है? And they were a very closely knit tribal and family system in the Ahle Arab. So that was another, let's say, one more reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose, you know, the Arab Peninsula and the people, right? Now going back to Makkah Mukarramah, right? So one of the reasons Makkah Mukarramah was chosen was the Kaaba was there, Baitullah was there. हज़रत आदम अलैहिस्सलाम ने काबा बनाया था, फिर उसको तोड़ा गया, फिर वो बना, फिर वो टूटा, like multiple times वो हुआ, right? And because Kaaba उधर था, अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला का घर बैतुल्लाह था, that has to be the epicenter of Islam, right? The whole Islamic religion revolves around the Kaaba, Baitullah, right? Not physically, but spiritually as well, right? The Baitul Ma'mur is something that is right above the Kaaba, but in the heavens, right? उसका तवाफ फरिश्ते करते हैं हर रोज. At one point in time, 70,000 angels उसका तवाफ करते हैं, and none of them repeat it, right? So that that place has spiritual significance because of the Kaaba, right? And also historically मक्का मुकरमा जो था वो historically एक religious जगह थी. Other than being a trade and capital, it was also a religion capital, ठीक है, इसलिए वहाँ पे हज होता था, ठीक है. अहले अहले कुफार एंड मुशरिके मक्का जो है वहाँ पे हज करते थे, वहाँ पे लोग आते थे, काफिले आते थे हज के लिए. यू नो, वो लोग बरहाना हज होता था वहाँ पे, तवाफ होता था एक्सेट्रा. लेकिन एट द एंड ऑफ द डे उधर आइडल्स रखे गए थे, वो उसकी एक मजहबी उसकी जो थी वो इम्पोर्टेंस थी, ठीक है. तो जो भी मक्का मुकरमा आता था, that person had a religious significance to it along with a trade significance, which meant that अगर कोई मजहब मक्का मुकरमा में फैल जाएगा, वो ऑटोमेटिकली यू नो आगे पीछे फैलना शुरू हो जाएगा, क्योंकि it was the religious epicenter as well. The other thing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls Makkah Mukarramah अमन वाला शहर, right? In the Quran. It was a place where killings were prohibited, right? People never used to fight there. So ये जो haram जो बना ना, that it was haram to kill someone there, it was haram to fight there. ये मुशरिकीन मक्का भी इसको क्या कहते हैं वैल्यू करते थे. तो चाहे ट्राइब्स के बीच में एनिमोसिटी होती थी, लड़ाई होती थी, लेकिन मक्का मुकरमा में कोई नहीं लड़ता था, बाहर जाके लड़ते थे. ठीक है, तो वो अमन वाला की जगह थी, वेयर पीपल यूज टू कम टुगेदर बिकॉज ऑफ द सैंक्टिटी ऑफ द प्लेस ऑफ द बैतुल्लाह and the spiritual significance of the place. People never fought there. People used to come there and offer hajj, do tawaf, do their own kinds of ibadat, चाहे वो शिरक करते थे whatever, लेकिन उस जगह कोई लड़ता नहीं था. ठीक है, अमन वाली जगह थी. So it's always great to spread religion from that place. फिर वो एक, as I already mentioned, economic epicenter तो वो था, right? और उधर जो है it had a lot of potential to grow as well. ठीक है, because the most powerful people used to live there, the richest people were there. ठीक है, सारे trade वहाँ से होती थी, so it had the potential to keep on further growing. ऐसा नहीं था कि वो जो है वो it's a place which would easily fill up and then you don't have potential to grow. ठीक है. Next, we will go to the point that why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose the Arabic language? Okay? So the first thing is that there is no other language which is comes even closer to the Arabic language. Okay? इसकी जो अजमत है, इसकी जो स्ट्रेंथ है, इसकी जो बलागत है और फसाहत है, it's unmatched. ठीक है, एक अरबी के वर्ड के लिए you need a whole sentence in English to explain it. ठीक है, right? For example, I will give you one word, right? Yansuru, right? This is one word, right? Yansuru. It's from the root word of noon sodra nasara, which means to help. Yansuru means a third person, singular, male, who helped, who's helping or who will help. So if I want to translate Yansuru, I will say he one man who is helping or who will help. Can you imagine the number of words? He, okay, let's ignore the one person and one man. He is helping or will help. That's 6 words for one word, Yansuru. Okay? So that's the power of the language. Okay? So that's only one aspect of Arabic. The other aspect is that iski literature, iski vocabulary is huge, right? I don't know how many words there are for a lion and for a horse, right? You will find multiple words. अगर आप कुरान पाक पढ़ें और आप कुरान पाक की vocabulary देखें, so it's extremely rich, and the reason is because the language itself is extremely rich. ठीक है ना? So it's non-comparable. The third thing is that Arabic is the fitri language of the humankind, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ये कहते हैं कुरान में ना कि the Arabic language has precedence over all of the language because it's the language of the Quran. ठीक है? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself took the onus of protecting it. It's the language which has not been, let's say, lost in time. उसका स्क्रिप्चर अभी भी अवेलेबल है, अभी भी लोग बहुत महारत से अरबी बोलते हैं. ठीक है, और सारे अरबी बोलने वाले और सुनने वाले, इवन दो डायलेक्ट्स डिफरेंट है, बट दे ऑल अंडरस्टैंड ईच अदर, राइट? एंड it's one language amongst so many Arabic places. It's not कि dialects different है लेकिन ज़बान change नहीं हुई है, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has protected that language. And the reason why the language plays such an important part is because remember Nabi al-Islam was illiterate from a worldly perspective. Okay? He was ummi, right? Ummi means he was not educated. He did not go to a formal madrasa or schooling system, right? He was taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reason why he didn't go to a school was because अगर वो कहीं जाते तो लोग कहते हैं उनको सिखाया गया. Someone's teaching him, right? But the only zat that was supposed to teach him was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And for a person to come up with such language, i.e. Quran, it was not humanly possible, right? तो वो जो कुरान का मुआजिज़ा था, of being in Arabic and of being at such a high level of Arabic which could not be man-made, that was because of this language. तो अगर ये अरबी लैंग्वेज नहीं होती, कोई और होती, फॉर एग्जांपल फारसी होती, राइट, या कोई और लैंग्वेज होती, राइट, तो उसमें ये नहीं आता, बिकॉज दैट लैंग्वेज इज नॉट एट दिस लेवल. ठीक है. Hence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Nabi Islam to be a prophet of the Arabic language. Um, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose Quraysh, right? So I touched upon this a little bit briefly, but I'll go in more detail. So number one, okay, the Quraysh were, you know, the historical guardians of Makkah Mukarrama, right? और इन लोगों की क्या कहते हैं दीनी फॉलोइंग थी, राइट. सो दे वर सपोज्ड टू बी पायस पीपल, दे वर सपोज्ड टू बी वेरी वेल रिस्पेक्टेड पीपल, राइट. In terms of their hasab nasab, right, in terms of their forefathers, they were people who were well respected at all generations, not only in one or two generations, but in all generations, right. Nabi Islam had to be amongst the purest of the generations, right, because he was the last Nabi and Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, unki generation was very pure, right. In terms of trade, they were the controllers of trade. They were very strong, very influential, right? In terms of language, they were supposed to be the best Arab speaking at that time, right? And in terms of personality, they were supposed to be the most brave, the ones with the biggest hearts, और सबसे शुजात वाले लोग कुरैश थे. ठीक है. तो दुनियावी पर्सपेक्टिव से और दीनी पर्सपेक्टिव से, ठीक है, वो जो हैं सबसे आला थे. ठीक है. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Quraysh. Right. So how many things have we done in terms of choice? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Quraysh as the family, that's one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the Arabic language, that's two. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Makkah Mukarramah, that's three. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the Arab Peninsula, that's four. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose um, क्या कहते हैं the time, right, the 6th century, that's 5. तो हमने जो है, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the people of Ahle Arab, that's 6, right. So those are the 6 different things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose, and the time that he chose and the place he chose for Nabi Islam and their importance. Now, very quickly, before we end, I want to touch about some of the learnings from this, right, that we can apply in today's time, right. So the first thing is that I think we all need to be optimistic, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends hidayat when halat kharab hote hain, right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Nabi Islam when it was so bad. And if you look at ourselves today, right, Alhamdulillah, we have Quran, we have Hadith, we have the teachings of Nabi Islam, हमारे पास दीनी मदारिस हैं, हमारे पास दुनियावी एजुकेशन है, right. Yes, Muslims are struggling all over the world, or let's say the human race is struggling, but that's an up and down phenomena, right. We are still a lot better than the 6th century, जब हर चीज lost थी. People who wanted to practice religion ran away. Imagine the scholars running away and locking themselves up in mountains and caves, ठीक है. और जो अवाम उन्नास है जो कि सीखना चाहती है वो सीख ही नहीं सकती. So we are very lucky to be born in this day and age, right? So that's the first learning. We should be thankful that we're born in this day and age. We don't have to discover religion on our own. We have Quran Pak, we have Hadith, we have the teachings of Nabi Islam, we have scholars and ulama to go to, we have our own parents and our families to thank, right? And our society to thank, because the awareness of Islam is at a very high level right now, Alhamdulillah. The other thing we need to understand is that there's a link between the prophets, right? तो हज़रत इब्राहिम अलैहिस्सलाम की दुआ was accepted. उसका reason ये है कि अंबिया are like a family, right? At the end of the day, and Nabi Islam is from the lineage of हज़रत इब्राहिम अलैहिस्सलाम and through हज़रत इस्माइल अलैहिस्सलाम, right? तो ये दुआएं जो हैं, don't never underestimate a dua. Duas can be accepted after generations and generations and decades and centuries as well, right? ऐसा नहीं कि मैं आज दुआ करूंगा तो रातों को भूल जाए, right? So we need to be patient. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was someone who looked long term. Hence he made a dua that, Ya Allah, send your blessed messenger in this land. Ya Allah, इस लैंड को तरोताज़ा रखें, इसमें तमाम फ्रूट्स और अनाज भेजें, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted that after many, many, many years, right? So that's also a lesson for us to be patient in our du'as. The other lesson for us is that we should understand the significance of the Arabic language, and we should try and see the potential कि हम उसको कितना time दे सकते हैं. Can we learn some of that language, right? If some of us have time, can we join some Arabic courses, right? Especially Quran, so that we study, so that we understand some of Quran and some of Hadith, right? Arabic language takes precedence over all the other languages, right? The other learning for us is that the people of the Arab Peninsula, right? We should respect them because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose them to send his last messenger and his beloved messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? We should respect them, we should respect their culture, we should respect their language, we should respect their ways, right? And that's because उनको एक निस्बत है नबी इस्लाम से, ठीक है, in the Arab Peninsula. We should also respect their capital history, right, of trade history. And Makkah Mukarramah की तो फजीलत वैसे ही है हमारे पास. But when we go there, inshallah, right, for Umrah or Hajj, we should keep all of these things in mind. कि यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं था, and from nothing it became everything. ठीक है. Similarly, we should respect Quraysh because Nabi Islam was from Quraysh, and that was one of the, let's say the most respected families at that time. Um, और हमें इससे ना फैमिली वैल्यूज का पता चलता है दैट वी नॉट अलोन, राइट? वी आर हियर एज अ फैमिली. तो जिस तरीके से हम अपनी फैमिली को पॉजिटिवली इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं, द वे वी टेक केयर ऑफ आवर स्पाउस, the way we upbring our children, right? We should be a positive energy to our families, whether it's our cousins, it's our elders, it's the young generation. We should be beacons of light for them. Because at the end of the day, it's not only for individuals, right? Families stand out. The whole Quraysh and Banu Hashim stood out, right? They were a pure family. They were a family well respected. We should also try to be like that, right? And we should become a pivot and a beacon for our families. So the family structure is very important, right? We're not individual players in this life. We have to go together as a fist, right? A fist is more powerful than a finger, and the family makes a fist. Okay, so remember that. So in your journey of religion or spirituality or ilm or deen, keep your family with you. Take your family with you because it's very important to have them with you. Okay? Don't be a lone soldier. Be an army. Okay? Don't be a lone soldier. Be an army. So those are some of the key learnings I think we have from our first session of why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose this place, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose this time, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose this language and people and Makkah Mukarramah. And inshallah, we will continue every night, right? And we will try and cater to other topics from the Seerat of Nabi Islam. The topic that we will cover tomorrow, inshallah, is going to be pre-Islamic Arabia. Okay? And I think you have the flyers in the different let's say social media platforms. So Jazakallah khair for staying with us today, inshallah, and we hope we can continue this for the remaining Ramadan. Remember in the du'as. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.